Good morning. Good morning. Thank you to the 10 of us that joined this morning. Just kidding. It feels a little bit thin in here, which is okay. That's May long. That's summer. We're gonna get there, right? Like everybody's away, but we're really grateful that you are here this morning. We're grateful that you've joined us this morning. For those of you that don't know, I'm sure most of us that are here this morning do know, Pastor Scott is no longer with us. I'm just kidding. Like for a period of time, he's no longer with us for a couple months. He is taking a sabbatical. Somebody made the comment this morning that I'm trying to look like him with my attire. Brown boots, blue jeans, black shirt. I promise you, I'm not coming for his job. In fact, quite literally the opposite of that. But nonetheless, Pastor Scott is on sabbatical. For those of you that don't know, just continue to be praying for him as he's in this season of rest and refreshing. And he actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, flies to Europe on Saturday. And then he starts his journey over there. He was probably sitting inside at the lake this weekend in the rain and enjoying that. But just keep him in your prayers as we go. He's back July 7th, I think, something like that. So you're stuck with us and then the team for the next little while. And so if you haven't been here for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing this series going through listening to a bunch of people in our church. Like I said a few weeks ago, there's many different ways that we could have approached this sabbatical. We could have brought in guest speakers. We could have divvied up the Sundays amongst the team. There's lots of different ways that we could have approached this sabbatical. But as we were thinking about it and preparing for it back in probably like closer to Christmas, where we thought it would be really cool to actually just hear some of the stories of God's faithfulness, of people's journeys through life, within our church. The reality is like we can get up here and talk out of the Bible and preach on a story, and it can be really profound and it's important, and that's part of church. But I think one of the ways that I've seen God be real the most is when I've heard how he's been real for people throughout their lives. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on over this next couple series. Anna started us off a couple weeks ago, and it was awesome. And then Ginger and June shared last week. And I hope what you realize over the next couple of weeks is we're trying to provide a really broad representation of our church. It's not just we were strategic in how we sort of wanted to have at least a little bit of a representation of a bunch of different stories picked through this next season. And so I love Ginger and June's story last week, and just the story of June coming to Kids Club on Tuesday nights, and then eventually wanting to come to church on Sunday mornings and youth on Friday nights, and then dragging her parents or her Ginger and her family over after that. Like, it's kind of just a cool testament to a lot of the work and energy that this church has put on over the many years to love our neighbors well, and just their journey through experiencing what God was like to them many years ago compared to how they view God now. It's really, really cool. This morning's story is going to be a little bit different, I think. We have a friend that most of you will have known. If you've been here for a long time, you will know this guy. If you haven't, then you probably will still recognize him. But he's been around for a little while. He's actually a part of the team that built this church in 1977 into 78, and we're going to hear a little bit about that. So I would love it if you could just give a big welcome, round of applause to Jim Logan. He's going to make his way up. Some of you will notice that Jim is wearing a hat this morning, which is completely normal. Do you want to sit here? Are you coming to my spot? Okay. Yeah, come on up. Make yourself comfortable. I would have liked, and it's all good. Like we love this. He wants it to block the lights, which they are freaking bright. If you've stood up here or ever do stand up here, they're nasty. I don't know why we do this, but we got to see us, right? And so, anyways, he's wearing a hat, and I would actually just be curious how many people, if you would have worn that hat in 1978 when this church opened, like how many people would have freaked out? Like it probably wouldn't have been very nice, right? Jim, how do you speak to that? Do you think you could have worn that in 1978? No way. No way. Okay, so we've come a little bit along. You probably would have had to wear a suit if you were on the stage, right? Yeah? Yes, we did. We did. They're on the screen. Here's your mic. Let me turn it on for you. No, okay.
Is that coming through now?
Yeah, we're good.
I can blow you away in this too. I won't.
So Jim, if you don't know him, has been here for a little while, a couple years, I would say, and has been a really just important part of this church becoming what we are today. You know, I think of there's a number of people that have been here since the building was up, and I as part of the younger generation, like sometimes I think take for granted like all the work and the years of energy and time and love and prayer, and I mean prayer. We'll get to that in a second, but that people like Jim have poured out, and so we're a product of the faithfulness of people throughout the years today. And so I'm excited to hear Jim's story. Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I think you can kind of we'll kind of take this wherever you want. Jim is I'm just warning everybody right now. We might be here a while. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We'll try to rate a bit. He came up to me last week and said, "Oh, Pastor Shay didn't go over full time. Does that mean I get the extra time?"
There was 10 minutes.
It was so. But Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself and your story and whatever you're wanting to share.
Before I start in that, I want to say something. I've always wanted to say those words like that. Anyway, many pastors do, unfortunately. Thank you for all your help. My wife and I, Marguerite, who passed away on November 26th of just this last year, as we were going through the battle with the Lewy body dementia and Parkinson's, we were fed people in here, in this church, people who didn't even know us, were busy sending us food, which was great, because I'm not a cook to begin with, and so all of these things were wonderful. So you know who you are, whether you're here present right now, or whether you are actually online listening to this. And I did have some different requests. What is the address, the online address, that this will be recorded on? So I didn't even think about that at first. Am I being put online?
Oh, yes.
And found out, yes, I
Every
was.
word you say can and will be used against you.
I'm expecting this to be properly gone over and all the mistakes removed.
Yeah, I'll think about it. I'll think about it.
Okay, I'll start backwards in one sense. I'm 82 years old. I'll be 83 on October the 13th. And so I was born in 1941, for those of you who are trying to calculate and say, okay, no, I'm not that old. My parents are that old, though, etc. It was a different time. It was during World War II. Of course, I had no clue about that. So that was unknown to me. I was born in, or close to a place, I don't know whether I was actually born in the town or not, the town of Sheeho, Saskatchewan. And of course, everybody knows
Sorry,
where
what was that town called?
Sheeho, Saskatchewan.
I think you just made that up right now. I've never heard that in my life.
Sheeho is actually the Aboriginal name for the prairie chicken. Okay. And they actually have a statue there of a prairie chicken. Nice. In the town of Sheeho. It's on Highway 16 if you're traveling from Yorkton, heading for Saskatoon. Then you would have gone by it and not noticed it, but it's on a curve in the road there. It is there. My mother was born and lived in Insinger, which was just a little ways down the road, but that's a whole other story. Excuse me. I am a first-generation Christian. which is kind of strange, and I'm 82 years old. But I was the first one. Actually, my sister and brothers as well, brother singular, we were a close-knit family. And when I was born in Saskatchewan, I already had a sister, an older sister. Her name was Ivy. Unfortunately, at the turn of the century, in 1999, ovarian cancer took her. But she was very instrumental in the beginning of my life, teaching me to pray and do different things that related to that. We were poor. I don't know how else to describe it when I'm trying to describe it to kids today or even my grandkids today, what poor was. They really do not have a clue. They think, okay, you only had one phone or something, or you didn't have the latest iPhone. I'm sorry, what was an iPhone? But that was a time, for those of you who have lived through it, know that we did not have any of the modern things we have today. We never had electricity. I think I got electricity when we moved to the Toulon area, and I was in grade 12, taking my grade 12. Back up a little bit. I have an older sister, had an older sister, Ivy. Excuse me. My next sibling was my brother John, then my sister Flora, and then my youngest sister Sandra, who, if you ever meet her, she will tell you immediately that she is the baby in the family. She's the youngest in the family, and she's also the smartest in the family, and a whole number of things.
Was she right?
No.
Okay. I would tell the same thing to anybody that met me.
So when she hears this, there may be repercussions. I don't know. We'll see.
Sorry to throw you under the bus there.
No, that's fine. We moved to Manitoba, actually, to a place called Sandridge. And everybody's heard of Sandridge, right? But if I said Narcissus, how many would say they heard of Narcissus?
We need a map here to prove that these places are actually on the map. So.
This is in the Interlake here. Yeah, it sounds like a bunch of weird places. Yeah. No, I'm not. Sandridge was a little thing, had a little station there. There was a railway track through there. And actually, if you go through the names of Manitoba, place names, for example, you'll find that railway tracks are right there. This is the way they were set up in the prairies. I'm getting away from here. Okay. So, Sandridge, and then, as I said, it was very close to Narcissus. Yes, we had garter snakes. Garter snakes are everywhere. My mom did not like garter snakes. She kept a hoe beside the door. You know what a garden hoe is? And our dogs somehow learned, or they picked it up naturally. You grabbed a snake up, and they would grab the snake in the middle, and they'd shake the life out of it, break its neck. Some of you understand what I'm saying. But the greatest collection of garter snakes in the world, actually the greatest collection of snakes in the world, is basically at Narcissus. But there are a number of the snake pits throughout that region of the Interlake because it is limestone rock. And as water percolates through limestone rock, it creates caves, small caves, and this is where the snakes would hibernate. But they're also very adaptable. They learned how they could secretly hibernate in a person's basement, too, if there's a hole for them to get in there. In fact, they had just built a new seniors complex in Inwood. Okay, now I'm talking about Inwood. From Sandridge, we moved to Inwood, just outside of Inwood. We were on a farm. It was a poor excuse for a farm, but it was called a farm. It was a quarter section.
There was grass.
There was grass and rocks. It grew grass and rocks, seriously. Limestone rocks are right close to the surface as well. There is a quarry, a limestone quarry at Inwood The holes are still there, massive holes where they took limestone off, and there were kilns there. It was a place where you could actually make money, because as you got older, and I was in my early teens here, we always cut cordwood to burn in the lime kilns. And as a result, I think they were even up to $5 a cord. I think the last time we were able to do that or did that. That's part of my early life there. Now, someplace in that time, I was around 9 or 10 years old, and this is where Daily Vacation Bible School was taking place. Pardon me, I need a drink. You go ahead. You could talk.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell Jim's story here for now. You went to date now. Yeah, VBS. Hey, that's I think a lot of kids kind of get their first introduction to church, and
these
that was yours.
Kids, including me, were basically. Do I shut myself off, or do you shut me?
You're good. You're good.
Okay. We were just kids from the neighborhood who basically knew nothing. And this summer, I mean, it was always a good thing to do because, kids were looking for stuff to do and parents were looking for them. Okay, the garden was dug up and the weeds were pulled as much as the parents could force the kids to do, because there were weeds grew in the garden all the time. Sorry, Luke. So we met in this time. I don't know how to describe it exactly. A lot of farms had hired men on it, bachelors who couldn't find a wife, and they were basically working on these farms, and part of the deal would be you fed them and you gave them a place to sleep. And this little building had been used for a number of things, including a chicken coop and a few other things. But this particular summer, I think it was either 9 or 10, I don't know exactly what year it was, but there were about, I don't know, must have been, there was over half a dozen of us being led by somebody from the Canadian Sunday School Mission. And we knew nothing about the Bible. I think I may have had a New Testament, because at that time the Gideons were allowed to distribute those to the kids in school. And I think in grade 3.
And they got into hotels. If you've ever been in there, you pull open that drawer, Gideon Bible. Yeah, they're everywhere.
They did all of those things. I'm not sure whether that's still allowed today or not. Hotels would be up to the hotel, of course. But
they probably will still just try and get them in there, sneaking them everywhere. They're probably, you open your car door right now, pull it up. There probably is a Gideon Bible in there.
Yes. We should do that to all those vans that are parked over here. Okay, you park in our lot, we'll give you information here. So, I don't know, and I can't remember the message or anything, but I remember it was probably about heaven and hell. And I don't know, it suddenly became very real. There's no way I wanted to go to hell, because he must have been providing quite a description of it. And basically, I gave my heart to the Lord at that time. And I guess my sisters and brothers were there too in the whole process. So from that time on, that's how we got to know the Lord. Now, they did do follow-up, though, too, because there was a church. It was called Norris Lake Baptist Church, halfway between Toulon and Inwood. And we had no car. I said, we were poor. We went by horse and wagon to the town. And most people had cars, so who are these hillbillies? But anyway, when you move into different places, particularly when you're in schools, sometimes you have to fight your way through too as well. There were challenges, but people picked us up, and the cars, of course, those years they're probably in the 40s. Some might have been from the 40s and early 50s, and they weren't in the greatest shape. But people volunteered and they picked us up. It's Jesus. It is. Working through there. You know, we didn't think of it that way. It got us to church. Sunday school. We learned. And then, as well, the Canadian Sunday School Mission has camps, and still does. They are, what do they call themselves now? One Hope Canada. That's it.
You passed the test. Good job.
Blanked out for me temporarily there.
That's how you can tell he works at a Christian school.
Yes. Was that Brian? Thank you. And thank you for all the teachers, principals. And I know at this time of the year, it's a heavy, heavy time as you go through the end of the year. By the way, I was an elementary school teacher, okay? Grade 6. Never passed out of grade 6 all my life. I'm telling my kids. That's a whole other story. Won't go into that area if I can. But we started going to the Sunday School Mission Camp at Gimli. And we probably did it, again, as a group of us. Somebody drove us over there. And somebody picked us up when it was over. And at that time, they ran it for 10 days. It wasn't just 1 week or 5 days. It was a full 10 days, which was great. Because, again...
I'm thinking, as somebody who's been involved in camps at VBSs and stuff, 10 days? Are you kidding me?
No.
That's way too long, but continue, sorry.
Well, I don't know, we just took it for granted. It was great. Oh, man, you were fed. Good. And, we lined up, and the way we were able to go into the dining room, which was kind of interesting. You sang. You know what song you sang? Go back in history a little bit. Onward, Christian soldiers.
I'm cringing.
Now, the most ideal table, of course, for the group of boys was sort of in the farthest corner, away from everybody else, and we got there first, and so we could actually start eating first. And everything was very organized, actually, because we were arranged in groups. Why am I going here? I didn't even put this in my notes.
I was going to say, we're still in grade 6 here. We got a ways to go here, Jim. We got to not rush it, but there's 82 years to cover. Buckle up, folks.
11:21 right now. Where are we going? We don't have to go anywhere, actually. Only the Lord works on the hearts, none me. I can't do that. So anyway, but I think we learned what it was to be a Christian. We learned the Bible. I still have, I didn't show you that either. I've got a New Testament that I got in 1957, and in it, it's got, back up a little bit, I guess I should explain it. You could take correspondence course in the Bible. So that's what I did. It was called the Good Book Club, I believe. And you went through that, and you passed it, and you got a compliment. In fact, 1957, they sent you out this New Testament, which is great in one way, because, as I said, I still have it, and actually still read through it. It's sort of the original English. Not that makes any difference. God help us when we start saying that it's only the King James Bible that works. God speaks to every generation in every way possible. He uses the newest methods in the mind of the people at least. In his mind, no, but that's okay. Whatever is there, he uses. Whether it's something like this, your phone, whatever it is, you get into that information. So anyway, that's the growing up process. A quick thing about my education. In 1959-60, I took my teacher's college, and For those of you who know where the Mennonite University is now, and the great big old stone building, that's where I took my education. I stayed in residence, not in the building, only girls allowed in the building. But my residence was in Fraser Hut, which was an H hut left over from people who were training in World War II who lived there. Shaped like the letter H, 2 people to a room, although the very end ones were one, except my end one was the one where you had to open the door, or you could open the door, which was hooked at the end for people who were trying to sneak in after there was a curfew. There was a curfew. The curfew, I believe, was 11:30, and if you weren't in by 11:30, you had to check in, and of course, you'd have this knock on your window. Can you unhook the door? Okay, no problem. Door got unhooked.
So you tested that theory?
No.
Okay.
I was the I was the inside one. I was one of the good ones.
Okay, yeah. That's what they all say. Yeah.
Got involved with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship at that time too, which was good. But yeah, it was quite a learning experience. Living with people actually prepared me for being in Portsmouth, so that's no problem, because same kind of thing. You're living with people. You're living in communities, and let's branch into that. Every one of us lives in a different kind of community. And if you're not sure what I mean, I'm not talking about physical, in one sense, communities. I'm talking about, and I'll use myself sort of as an example, particularly when my wife was still alive. She was in Pembina Place Personal Care Home. That was a community with different workers, different people. You get to know their names. And my aim was always to live as a Christian, a believer. I wasn't going along saying, you got to follow Christ. No, my life was, I was trying to show it through my life. And there were wonderful people there. Part of it was, it is run by the Mennonite Central Committee. That's the overall branch. It's part of Bethania, located over close to Concordia Hospital, if you're not sure where that is, where they have a huge place. And so that was one of the places. I was living now in Portsmouth. That was another community with another whole group of people. And I'm hoping in your mind you're thinking, oh, okay, this is what I'm meaning. That, and it doesn't matter what age you are, right from the very youngest one here to the oldest one here. I won't say your name, but anyway, you'll giggle guiltily. So
we gotta not to cut you off.
This church is a community too.
Yeah, it's 100% a community. Tell us a little bit about your journey that sort of led you to here, with the church, the old church, and then the erection of this church, and the start of the journey kind of into this season.
Oh, you answered everything right, so no problem. No, we went to what we called Old Berean Church on Burnell Street. We got married. Oh, that's a whole other story too, but I won't go there. But the Lord did everything there because I was too dumb to get myself a wife. Okay, let's put it that way.
Everybody said amen?
No, really, because, it just wasn't happening. But say that. That's where the Lord put Marguerite and I together. But it was, again, who does the Lord use to do all of these things? Does he use supernatural power? No. He uses you, whoever you are, in ways that you may not understand. You do some things, you don't know why. He knows why. He maneuvers you. He maneuvers you in certain ways and gets you to do things in certain ways. So I say it's all of these things. You say, how is the Lord? Or The only way I see how he's working is after the fact. I don't see it ahead of time. He doesn't tell me, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I don't know, in my life it doesn't happen that way. Maybe in yours it does. But anyway, basically, I taught 2 years, and I thought, and this was way out close to a place called Vassar in southeastern Manitoba. Some of you may know,
where that
it is. There's number 12 highway. Yes, there are some people. And I know there's a couple over here too, someplace. They're quite familiar where Vassar is because they live in a suburb of Vassar, or they used to live in a suburb of Vassar. I'll hear about that afterwards.
We got to keep it moving here a little bit, Jim. Not to keep pushing you, but
yeah, keep going.
Tell us about this. Tell us about how you kind of guys got here
okay.
in Grace.
How we got here. Marg and I were going to Berean Church. We'd moved to a place in Fort Garry. It was called Fort Garry Pentecostal Church now. And in the whole process, as we're there, every church has elephants in the room. This church has elephants in the room too, by the way. So you don't talk about those elephants. Except if Ewan was here, he says, you better talk about them. No, I'm not. So we moved. We decided, okay, for our kids, Shelley and Corey were born then at that time, that we've got to move. We decided we have to move. Certain things that happened in the Fort Garry Church. We thought, okay, where are we going to go? And then all of a sudden, we heard about this new pastor who had just come to the Charleswood Gospel Temple. And we investigated it, checked it out, and went through a few Sunday nights and seemed to be thriving. The one thing that was going to be happening was they were building this new church. Now, when you're building a new church, there's also, there's many elephants in the room then, especially when you have people who specialize in building big buildings and churches and stuff like that. But anyway, we thought, okay, we can go serve the Lord there. And this was our criteria. How can we serve the Lord? So I thought, okay, this is going to be a place we can do that and help our kids get associated here and everything else that's taking place. So they proceeded to do that. And we came here, and oh my goodness, when you're hearing, going to meetings about the building of the church and all the discussions, and let's put it that way, that go back and forth and that. But we came here. So it was amazing, and it's not about us. But in that beginning, we did come there in 1977, beginning part of 1977. I had been teaching adult Sunday school. I've taught adult Sunday school all my life until it finally came to an end here. I can't remember exactly when it was. To me, that was a downer. But anyway, to me, the more educated people are, the better off we are as a church and everything and everybody else. It doesn't matter who. I don't think God drains our brains. He doesn't. I'm sorry. I would disagree with that point.
So 1977, the church is going up. We actually got a couple pictures here of Jim sent me these, or he had them in an album. You see them on the back screen. They probably won't pop up on that screen. Of the church going up in 1977. The next one there. That's right here, isn't it?
That's right here.
That's right here. That shovel going into the grounds. That's in the two little girls there in the corner. One's your daughter, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is
Shelley, the other one's Rachel.
Rachel Corrado. I don't know how many other people can recognize up there. We can kind of leave those.
The one with the bald head facing this was Harry Hesp, who was head of cathedral development.
Okay.
I was building this building. And there were dignitaries from the area which said, within 5 years, you'll be houses all around here, and there'll be thousands of people living in them, and there'll be water. By the way, if you're not familiar, water is hauled in. and the sewage is hauled out.
For a little bit longer.
For a little bit longer.
We got roads going.
For the entire length of this church so far.
And instead of houses, we got beautiful storage compartments out there, and park. What's changing? So Jim,
so we came to serve.
Yes,
and we did.
Yes, and faithfully. I've heard many stories of your involvement. You were telling us one time that you see the wood trim around the building everywhere. This gentleman stained, I would say, a large portion of that. Is that fair?
I varnished it. I did the completing coat. The amazing thing was the lady who was the wife of the person who laid all the carpet, not this one. We had beautiful orange carpet in here before, if you're not aware of it.
Beautiful is a subjective term, if you will.
Beautiful is always a subjective term. But yes, I came Saturday mornings, not everyone, because there were family things that took place or school things that were involved, but worked my way all around that oak trim, wherever you see it, trying to get through. And I think finally I did by the following. Came through the winter. Couldn't do it in the summer because on Saturday mornings we had another important date, which was golfing.
Amen. So Jim, there's so much that we could talk about, and so much life and wisdom and prayer and story and everything else that we could talk about. One of the things in this series is the whole idea of this series is based on a verse in 1 Samuel where it just they were basically taking rocks, quite literally like this. I'm sure you've heard this throughout the series a couple times, and they would set them up in what they called an Ebenezer. And that was a signifying moment to look back and say, this is how God has helped us. So, Jim, my question this morning, and we'll spend maybe 2 or 3 minutes on it here, is for you looking back on your life and looking back even through the journey of this church, and there's so many different areas that you could dive into here. Some of the stones, what are some of the moments where you can look back and say, this is how God has helped me. This is how God has brought me through this. The moments of his faithfulness coming to life for you. What are some of those stones? What are some of those moments where God has helped you? Just give us a couple. Unfortunately, we can't talk about all of them probably.
No clue.
No clue. No. Well, that was anticlimactic.
Proverbs 27, verse 2.
Yes,
I'm not telling you what it is. You have to look it up.
you read this to me the other day. There's got to be a couple moments, Jim, that you can look back on and say, well, God has helped. It's not even just you, it can be the community.
Just in coming to him.
Yeah.
Surviving him. I didn't talk about my health. I can name you half a dozen things that I shouldn't be even up here moving. I should be laying flat in a bed. I've got a backbone, T12, 80% crushed, vertebrae. T9, 50%. T6, there's a little bit less, or maybe. I just had, this happened in 2012. I made a bad golf swing. Didn't know what I did to my back.
Been there.
And in the whole thing, found out in x-rays and stuff that, yeah. Now that's then. I was 5'8.5". I'm less than 5 feet now. In the whole process, my stomach was crushed, literally. I no longer have a stomach. I used to be in the area of 240 to 250 pounds all the time. I was sort of built like a tank. And I'm 162 right now, for example. And I've been down to 155. When you lose a whole bunch of weight in a short period of time, suddenly, yeah, your stomach is the least crushable, or the most crushable kind of thing. So you don't get very much in your stomach through the whole process. I'm in danger of, I've got a hiatal hernia, the size of my stomach. It's another thing. But the Lord, I don't know, like I said, he's brought me through all of those. And as I said before, he has used people. He's used doctors. We have an excellent doctor. Sometimes we think we wish he could take more time with us, but I know that's not his doing. We live in a system where other things are more important than people's health. Meeting my wife, same thing. God pulled me out of teaching. I taught 2 years. I started to on that track, and then I jumped off it. And he pulled me out of there. And I thought, who wants to do this for the rest of your life? And it was a grade 1 to 8 country school with dilapidated equipment. It was under the public trustee. It wasn't run by a local school board or anything like that. Your equipment that you had was just decrepit, let's put it that way. But the people were good. It always comes back to the people. They sent me good people there, helped take care of me, pulled me out of there. Met my wife on a blind date, cleaning a barn. This was in that fall. I was busy cleaning barn for a friend I was working for, and got a phone call. They actually had, friends of ours had set this up, and I guess I had agreed to it previously. Okay, well, I'm not going with any woman, don't know any woman. And went there. She was raised on a farm too, it was good. She was working in Winnipeg. Her name was Marguerite Kennedy at that time. And I picked them up at a bus stop. Would you believe, in front of where Cross Church is today on Logan Avenue?
Yes.
Which is under a fire restriction. They can't even, I don't think they can have their people in there right now because the fire department had the street blocked off. Not in their place, but anyway, that was as far as the bus went. Picked them up. I was smelling like I was cleaning a cow barn. For those of you know what I mean, that's the way it was smelling. Brought them out, met this lady. She looked very nice, very good. Came back, I dropped them off at his father's place where I was working, and rushed home, had a bath in the tub. You're saying, this is making it longer. And that's the way we had a bath. You poured water in the tub, and that was it. Rushed back. I did have a car then. A car with a bullet hole in the top. That's a whole other story. And
literally, he told me that the other day. Really cool story. We don't have time for it, but
we don't have time for it. Anyway, and make a long story short, by the way, it was Sadie Hawkins' day, because in those days, that was the day women could invite men out for a date. That basically started everything, because again, God used people in there. I'm not just talking about those now, because after the evening was over, and I did kiss her on the first date, and she kissed me.
Got moves.
That was it. Drove out 908 Jesse Avenue was the address. Lord has a sense of humor. Jesse Avenue runs right by Pembina Place, personal care home, and NASA, where she was staying last. Only the Lord does that. I think he has that sense of humor. We don't credit him, I think, for enough of the sense of humor, because when you really read through what he talked about in Matthew there, and he was talking about the plank in your eye, you're trying to remove the speck in your brother's eye. It doesn't work. Anyway, I had a 51 Monarch. You pulled the light switch out a little distance. It was a cloudy, foggy night in November. Turned onto Stafford Avenue to head north, and there's a policeman on foot. Stopped me. He says, your lights are burned out. I said, no, I don't think so. So I pulled them out. No, they're on. He says, I want to see your driver's license. I pulled out my driver's license. At that time, I hadn't changed it from Vassar yet to Toulon. And he says, I'm giving you a ticket. The ticket meant, he says, you got to come back into Winnipeg and pay it. So from then on, okay, I knew those guys weren't real. I believe they were angels. There was another one on foot, no car. They don't, there wasn't a normal thing even then, because there were police who did go on foot. I had to come in. I didn't get her phone number initially. I got it from Wendy then, and back in on Monday. I phoned her on Sunday. It was back in on Monday. That was it. Okay? That was all the Lord. But he uses people. People aren't Christian necessarily. In my life, he's used non-Christians to do things with me. I've done dumb things, very dumb things. Talk about the bullhook. Top of the car.
I think we could. You could. There's.
I'm stopping there. I'm not going
Yeah, we'll stop you there.
I won't talk about that one.
Yeah.
It's not a neat story for me in reality. But
No, it's all good.
I learned. We don't always do smart things.
Yeah. We got 2 minutes left, Jim. If you could, looking back in your life, sort of share one thing with everybody here today, one piece of advice that you've sort of learned over 82 years. One, I know it might be hard to narrow it down to one, and maybe you'll give us a couple, but what has 82 years of God's faithfulness in your life looked like, and what's one thing? How do you summarize a little sermon or a little piece of advice for everyone here today?
Love God.
Love God.
Jesus loves me.
Yeah.
Simple Bible verse.
Yeah.
The Bible tells me so. The Bible tells me so.
Yeah.
Simple course. Full of meaning. Full theological thought in that. Say, how do you do that? Serve him. And when you serve other people, we have people who quietly have served for years, in behind the scenes. And like the song that you played this morning, that's a great one. You know, in the whole process. I try not to complain. I grew up from nothing, in a sense. You know, the Lord gave me a wonderful life. Unfortunately, no, I shouldn't say. Fortunately, when I die, it doesn't end here. I'm dying this physical death. And Jesus said that's going to happen. Either that or all of a sudden, we're all gone right now. Raptured immediately. All your clothes, everything you've got is left behind. Everything physical is not going anywhere. You think, oh no, I need clean underwear. But anyway.
Hopefully everybody's wearing underwear.
When we're gone, we go the same way we came into this world. Naked you come in, naked you go.
Well, Jim,
just serve God. That's the only
serve
thing
God.
He can ask you to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to do it, there's a Bible, you know, whatever way you get it, your iPhone or wherever. The real one. Not the real one, but in a sense, physical one that you can look at and you can read and check. Okay, if you haven't checked on Proverbs 27, verse 2, this was hard for me. 2 ways. Because I'm have to talk about my partner who is not with me anymore. And I've asked that many times, Lord. I say, why? He says, do you trust me? That was the other thing. Do you trust me? Do you really trust me? I say, yes, Lord, I trust you. I don't know the beginning, I don't know the end, but I trust you.
Amen.
I know, if that helps you. I know. I said once before here, God does not drain your brain. And I don't believe, now this may be wrong, that our brains are drained when we go to the next stage, next step. Because as believers, okay, now I'm preaching, okay, there is a millennium period coming up. 1,000 years, whether it's exactly little or not, we don't know. But we, believers, are going to be the ones who are the leaders, shall I say? We're called to be the word in the Bible is judges. We're judging. But we're not sitting on a judging seat. That actually means leading. If you go back to the judges in the Old Testament, they were leaders.
Sunday school will take place after church in a couple minutes. We could go down in a.
We
in
miss
a
Sunday school.
I
miss Sunday school. That's when you learn the most, by the way. Okay, teach. That's when you learn the most.
So follow God, trust in him. I love that you shared like that idea or thinking of like do like God asking us like, do you trust me? And that I think is a really interesting thought for us to ponder on. Like, do I trust you, God? Like, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know where this is going. But I trust that you do, God. We know how the story ends. And so, Jim, I just want to say thank you for sharing a little bit about your story. There is so much that we could get into if we had more time. But I also just want to say thank you for being who you are. I mean, I've been here since July 2015, and there's been a lot of moments where you've just been encouraging, where you've been faithful. I've never once heard you complain. And as somebody that's been here since the beginning of the building, that had a lot of like say in how it goes, I think you have some rights to do that. Like you've built some credit. You could. I'm not saying you should or you will, but like it wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if you felt like there was things that could be done differently. But I've never heard you complain. I've never heard you frustrated by the way the church is going or anything, because I think you've always been encouraging. You see that there's young people here, and you see that maybe through the years that hasn't always been the case, as you shared, and you've been faithful in praying. I said before that he's been faithful in praying, and I don't think you even have any idea as to how true that is. Somebody, you can come look at this book later. He's got a binder full of names with like small little grids that they prayed for every day and checked off. It's pages and pages of names and check marks and days through the years that him and his wife spent praying for people in this church, and he still does. And so he's been a rock here for a long time. You can ask him a lot of questions. He's got a lot to say. But unfortunately, we don't have time to continue to get into it this morning. But Jim, you are, to me, an inspiration in remaining faithful to the call that God has had on your life, and to just being faithful to following him. And so thank you for all that you've sort of done over the years. And do you have any final last words? You look like you're thinking, or you're
No, I'm flattered.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, I'm just saying, I'm also 82. I realize that life comes to an end, and there have to be other people, younger people, who carry on in this church. I believe you're here, and the Lord is calling you to do different things. He doesn't overwhelm you. It might be a very simple thing.
But thanks for getting that and living that out, and I think there's a lot of value, even for some of our seniors here, and a lot of us are this way. But there's a lot of value in like recognizing that our preferences might not be as important as making sure there's young people in the pews for when we're no longer here. Right? So thanks for journeying with us in that, Jim, and setting an example for that. I'm going to pray for us, and then we're going to get out of here. It's the May long weekend. It's actually kind of sunny. It's not raining right now, so that's a miracle in and of itself.
We need the rain.
We do need the rain, except I think we got quite a bit of it. But we might need more eventually. Just let the ground soak it up a little bit.
We need more.
Let the ground. God, thank you for today. And thank you for every person that's here. And thank you for Jim and for the years of faithfulness to you, God, and to this church. The hours of study that have gone into him teaching Sunday school for years, and the hours that have gone into maintaining this building, the hours and hours and hours that have gone into praying for people from this community. God, thank you for just an example of faithfulness, an example of someone who has decided that, yeah, I'm going to follow you all of my days. And so may we just take a couple of lessons from his story this morning. May we learn to trust you more, God. May we learn to put our faith in you, and may we learn to just understand that you are faithful. All of our days, you will be faithful. God, so thank you for every person here. Bless us as we go. Help us enjoy the rest of the May long weekend. We love you. In Jesus' name, everybody said, amen. Well, thanks for joining us. If you had any questions about Grace or any of the events coming up, you can head to the website, gracewinnipeg.ca/events. Register for the men's golf tournament if you are interested in that, and have a great Sunday.